Good afternoon to everybody. Thank you very much to the organizers of the event, particularly our IT&T CEO. I acknowledge here the Additional Chief Secretary of the Department, Dina Kumar, the many heads of departments of all the different verticals in the IT department, some of the other senior IAS officers in the room, all the innovators and learned people on the subject from whom we are to hear on the rest of the session, and all of you, ladies and gentlemen. There's a place when ministers should speak, and there's a place when they should listen. And something like innovation in deep tech and AI, there's not really that much for ministers to speak. So I'll try and keep my comments brief so we can get more time with the experts. As the Secretary said, in some sense, this is the nth coming of AI, the third or the fourth. I remember Deep Blue, I remember the chatbots. I'm old enough to have seen many of these come and go. But what I think makes it different this time, other than the obvious results we see and the quality of the content generated through the generative AI, is that we have such vast amounts of data already available, at least in some languages in some countries. And the possibilities that that kind of data can be created and stored at relatively, marginal cost of zero. And therefore, that the available content for a machine to learn, for a program to learn, is infinite. Combined with the fact that these days, access to really high levels of computing power is quite democratized through the cloud, and even startups for short periods of time can harness huge amounts of computing power at some reasonable cost. What would otherwise cost hundreds of millions of dollars to build regularly can be hired for an hour or a day. I think the combination of these has really unleashed the creativity and the whole approach to how machines and human beings interact. I say many times that my PhD dissertation back in 1990 or 91 was about understanding human cognition and helping to design computer interfaces with that understanding. That is to say, we want to try and make the machine more accessible to the person. And that was the extent of computing power at that time, the average person, the one that doesn't need to be a specialist. We have reached the other end of that spectrum today, where we are training the machines how to be like humans, and we now have the capability of doing that. Obviously, that opens up a whole lot of possibilities, and to touch upon briefly the nature of this double-edged kind of evolution. In job creation versus job destruction. I think clearly many jobs that were done by human beings will be much, much better and faster done and more reliably done by these machines. In my old industry of banking, the amount of work that was done post the mainframe processing of all the reported transactions that required hundreds of human beings to do, AI can probably eliminate all those jobs altogether. And yet, the creation of the content and the creation of the machine learning programming in English language, or in our case in Tamil language and in the regional languages, is going to create a whole lot of new jobs that we have not had before, and provide the possibility of even leapfrogging were we to have the right ecosystem to foster that kind of innovation. Of course, we also see that as much as generative can replace human beings, you can also do a lot of deep fakes, and so authentication of content and origination of source is going to be very important. We have seen election manipulation in many countries through AI level of deep fakes and content manipulation. Somebody gifted me a book, and I was just reading it earlier, about how in the Russia-Ukraine war, the battle for Kiev was effectively won by a bunch of programmers who got a bunch of drones together and were able to go and bomb out the advanced parts of a 40-kilometer long convoy of Russian vehicles in such a way that the entire road was blocked. and effectively changed what was otherwise sure defeat into eventual withdrawal of the Russian forces, because then they used the same technology to go and bomb out the supply chain. And so you had troops stuck with no way to go forward and not enough supplies to stay where they were. So this is the disruptive power, because what they could do is train these drones based on some of the camouflage they had detected to identify where other likely camouflaged vehicles and supplies were. So you look at all of this together, and I think this is going to be surely one of those inflection points. In my career, I've seen 2 or 3 of these. The widespread advent of converting analog and digital signals, which led to the ERP revolution and the automation of factories, the internet and email, which led to a different kind of connectivity, the Internet of Things, which led to a different level of automation and efficiency. And this is probably even more impactful than all of that together. As far as the government is concerned, I would say broadly there are 3 areas we're focused on when it comes to deep tech and AI. The first, and by far the most important to somebody like me who comes from a social justice philosophy and equity and inclusion agenda to public life, is that we can change the way government functions. We can remove a lot of the human elements and the disruption that bad human elements can create in processes. And we should be able to make it so inclusive that even the lowest level of education with voice interaction should be able to get resolution of their requests or needs from the government without having to worry about, running from pillar to post and seeing 10 different officers. So the way government functions and the way government interacts with citizens, we hope will be our primary target for where we can apply these kinds of technologies and improve. Of course, part of government's job is to facilitate or create that kind of ecosystem where entrepreneurs and creative people can facilitate growth and help grow the employment, which is so vital for us as we reap our demographic dividend. And I think in the case of Tamil Nadu, where we have fallen a bit behind other states or other cities, at least in perception and branding, this technology and this paradigm shift offers us the opportunity to leapfrog some of the more traditional players and create a center of excellence or an ecosystem of excellence, not even a center, around AI and deep tech in Tamil Nadu, and use that and the brilliant and very talented and the huge magnitude of engineers and scientists that Tamil Nadu graduates every year to actually leverage the benefits of our education system and get jobs and growth. And then, of course, though it's very hard for states to regulate things at a technological level, it's an international business in some sense, it's a national policy making, but to have inputs in our own way into the regulation and responsible use of such technologies, and to have our responsible, our duties to the citizens properly input through these technologies, especially as we fear about the quality of democracy deteriorating in general. So I think with those objectives, I am here to learn as much as everybody else, and so I won't say much more. It's a very exciting time for us, for the world, for the technology, for the young people, and I hope that in the next 75 minutes or so, we'll all come away from this much more enlightened and with a lot of thought-provoking inputs. And I thank you once again for coming. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was pretty insightful. And thank you for explaining how AI is shaping up the present as well as the future. As mentioned by our secretary, Mr. Dheeraj Kumar, IAS, sir, we would like to open the floor for a few questions.
Hi, sir. Such a pleasure seeing you today. I'm Samir Kudur from the US India Business Council.